हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू इकोनॉमिक्स क्लास 11th महाराष्ट्र बोर्ड। आज हम स्टडी करेंगे कुछ बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स जो है आपका चैप्टर 1। सो टुडे स्टूडेंट्स वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग चैप्टर 1 ऑफ महाराष्ट्र इकोनॉमिक्स सिलेबस फॉर महाराष्ट्र बोर्ड क्लास 11th. So today let us first understand where did this term economics came from. Economics word came from a Greek word which is known as oikonomia. Oikonomia means the study of household, the study of wealth of the household. So this has come from there, and our Indian you must have heard of Chanakya or Kautilya as we call during the Mauryan period. He gave us a very elaborate account of political economy, economics and administration, judiciary. So he gave us a book by the name of Arthashastra. Arthashastra means the art. It included political science. It included the how do we measure the wealth in the hands of people. So he gave us a very popular document which is known as Arthashastra. And Arthashastra defines how the government should be helping the people in whatever way. What will be the role of the government in the whole economic scenario. And it also focuses on the wealth creation, how much wealth is being created in the country. And it also gives us some political ideas on how the judicial political mechanism should be operating in the country. Now, understanding this term economia, now we move on to the different definitions of economics. The first definition was given to us by Adam Smith, who is known as the father of economics. He gave us his definition of economics as it is known as the wealth oriented definition because it focused only on the wealth of the people. It says that economics is an inquiry into the nature and science of wealth creation. So Adam Smith gave us the wealth oriented definition. So we call this as a wealth oriented because he tells whatever people are doing to get the wealth in the economy, like how they are earning their money and how they are spending it. In simple terms, wealth means anything which helps us to earn more money. So that is the wealth creation. So we understand this, that Adam Smith gave us the definition of economics through his wealth oriented aspects and inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of the nations. So an inquiry, we are inquiring into what? Into the wealth of the nature and the causes of the wealth of nations. So that is the definition which is given by Adam Smith. Now this definition had certain issues with it. The economists who came after Adam, they tried to find a lot of faults with this definition. They said why it is only on wealth, why this is not on the welfare of the people. So we then had the Marshall giving us the welfare definition. Marshall focused on the welfare of the people, how the people in the economy can be benefited. Because if an individual person welfare is taken care of, then the whole society's welfare can be taken care of. So instead of just focusing only on the means of earning money, he also gave us the welfare concept. Welfare is a broader concept where we include the wealth also. So it is improving the standard of living of the people. So that is a small part of it. So Marshall gave the definition of eco that getting the wealth is important, but more important is the welfare of the people. If each person's welfare is taken care of, then the overall welfare of the society gets taken care of. Each person taking care of himself, then the whole society takes care of themselves. And after Marshall, there was another definition which was given to us by Robbins. gave us the scarcity definition. Scarcity definition means, as we had done it in earlier sessions, economics studies the resources and it also studies the scarcity of resources. We know our resources that we have with us are limited and the wants which we have to satisfy are unlimited. So what do? We make a choice. So scarcity definition gives us the definition that the resources which are at our disposal are limited, but the wants are unlimited. Therefore, the human beings are forced to make a choice. So this is the scarcity definition where people are forced to make a choice. They have to choose which want is to be satisfied with which resources at any point of time. So this Robbins gave a big angle to this thing, and all he said that he said that people like, say, Robinson Crusoe, who are living on an island, they are also faced with the problem of choice, because everyone has wants, resources are limited, therefore we have to make a choice. Which want we need to satisfy now, maybe it's an urgent want, and which want we have to satisfy later on. So all the time in every aspects of life we are making a choice. Suppose I give you an example. You have a certain amount of money, pocket money you are getting every month from your parents. Now you have your two of your friends' birthday coming another after 2 months. So you know that you have to give them some gift from your own pocket money. So what will you do? You will make a choice. You will postpone your current expenditure. You will save some portion from the current spending that you are having, and you will keep aside some amount of money to pay for that gift for those friends later on. So what happens is, here is you are making a choice of cutting down your current expenditure and spending it later on some other thing. So you have made a choice. You have made a choice of seeing this lecture. So this is a choice that you have made. So every time in every phase of life we face the problem of choice. So these were some of the definitions of economics. Now moving on to the branches of economics. There are two branches of economics. One is microeconomics and two is the macroeconomics. Now what is this? Micro means the tiniest part, the smallest part. So microeconomics studies only different small parts of the whole economy. If it studies demand, that is one aspect. If it studies supply, it is one aspect. If it is studying consumers' behavior, it is one aspect. So only one tiny part in the whole is studied under microeconomics. Under macro, we study bigger issues, the overall economy issues, unemployment, poverty, or inequalities of income and wealth. So broader picture is given to us through the macroeconomics. Hello students, continuing with our basic concepts in eco, now we'll also understand some microeconomic concepts. सबसे पहले हमने बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स करे थे, अब हम माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स को थोड़ा समझेंगे. पहला कॉन्सेप्ट है वांट्स एंड इट्स कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स और क्लासिफिकेशन. वांट्स क्या होती हैं? हमारी इच्छाएं, जो भी हम चाहते हैं वो हमारी वांट है. वांट्स की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स क्या होती है? हमें भूख लगी, खाना खाना है, थोड़ी देर बाद फिर भूख लगी, फिर खाना खाना है. तो वांट्स हमारी बार बार आती रहती हैं, रेकर होती हैं. वांट्स अनलिमिटेड होती हैं. जब तक इंसान जिंदा है तब तक वांट्स रहती हैं. So wants are unlimited, wants recur regularly, wants may be regular. Most urgent want will be satisfied first than the other one. So इस तरह से wants can have their own characteristics and they are classified also. Wants are classified into categories like necessities, luxury and comforts. There are certain wants which are required for our survival. There are certain wants which are required for efficiency. जो सर्वाइवल के लिए तो नहीं बट एफिशिएंसी के लिए हमें चाहिए. या कुछ वांट्स हमारी लग्जरी गुड्स होंगी, कुछ वांट्स हमारे कंफर्ट्स में आएंगी. सो वी विल स्टडी दिस इन लेटर ऑन. Then there are goods and services. Now we have to understand goods and services mein what is the difference. Goods mein you can actually see the good. It is something which is tangible. In case of service, you cannot see the good. If a teacher is teaching in a class, she is providing a service in the class. After the class is over, you cannot see that service anywhere unless you record it, of course. So goods are something which is physical, tangible, which you can see, but the service is intangible. You cannot see that service. Also, for services, the payment is after the service is provided. In case of goods, at that point you pay the money, you take the good becomes yours. In case of service like for example doctors, lawyers, CAs, all these provide services. So you pay them after the service is done. But in case of goods, at that point of time, suppose I buy a pen, at that point of time this is a good. So I pay the money, I take the pen. So this good has come to me. So at that point only it happens. But in case of services, the payment takes place later on. Then the concept of utility. Utility is the want satisfying power of commodity. Wants satisfying power. This pen is giving me satisfaction because I am writing it here. So this is satisfying my want to write on this. So utility is the want satisfying power which is in the commodity to satisfy that want. So that is a utility for us. Utility are of different types: form utility, time utility, place utility, possession utility. Let me just explain a little bit. Suppose in a forest there is a lot of trees which are present there. So one person from our village just goes, chops down those trees and sells the wood which he gets by cutting those trees. He will be fetching a price. A certain price for that wood he will be getting. Now suppose this farmer, he chops the wood, he converts it into a piece of furniture and then sells it. So he has changed the form of the commodity. So that means he has given a form utility to that product. So when he gives the form utility, he will be able to fetch a higher price than the price of the wood by converting it into a piece of furniture. Now suppose another thing happens, that he takes it, he doesn't sell that piece of furniture in his village. He goes into the city and then sells it. He will be getting a much higher price for that piece of furniture than what he would have got in the village. So that means we are giving it a place utility. If you are changing the place of that commodity from one place to another, it is fetching a higher price. That means we are giving it a place utility. Now suppose this person is someone who is making umbrellas throughout the year, but he sells the umbrellas only during the rainy season when there is high demand. So what has he added? He has added time utility to that product. If he is selling umbrella in off season, he won't be getting much price for it. But if he sells it in the season when it rains, he will be fetching a higher price. So that means he has used that time utility to fetch a higher price for his products. Same way, there is also a possession utility. Commodities which are used by elite people, or say supposing there is film stars who use certain products, a jacket or a shoe, and then they auction it, they sell that product in the market. Although it is second hand, it is used by that person, but still people buy it at a very high price. It means that that product now has a possession utility because it was possessed by one film star or any person for that matter, cricketer or someone, a cricketer's bat. So it will fetch a higher price because they have used it. So it means the commodity has now got a possession utility. I hope you are able to understand. Then we have a value in use and value in exchange. When I am using this pen, it has value while I am using it. And value in exchange is a case of umbrellas. The person is selling it. He is exchanging the umbrellas for the money. So that is a value in exchange. We can use something which is in use, or it could be something in exchange. The value could be in use or in exchange. The pen is giving me value because I am using it. If I give this pen and take something else from someone, then it becomes a value in exchange. Then we have the concept of wealth. Wealth means anything which helps us in creating more wealth. Now what is wealth? Wealth may be assets. Wealth may be land, building, equipment, machines, which helps in the production of more such goods is our wealth. Then we have the concept of personal income. Whatever income a person is getting, salary or maybe wages or maybe from business, that is the personal income of that person. Then we have a personal disposable income. Now this personal income, when the person is getting, he's supposed to pay taxes on that, income tax or any other taxes. Once he pays those taxes, whatever portion of that income is left with him is known as the personal disposable income. Whatever part of income is now for him to use it in the way he wants is the personal disposable income. So personal income minus the taxes which are being paid gives us the personal disposable income. Then we have the concept of economic activity, which is production, distribution, exchange and consumption. Let's understand them one by one. Production is when you are making something. Production is creation of utility to the commodities. All types of utility, maybe form utility, time utility, place utility. So that is the production process. When you're converting a raw material into a finished product, that's the production process. Now, if the producer is just producing those goods, it is of no use until he distributes. What will the producer do with all the goods that he produces or manufactures? Unless he distributes it, he sells it out. So then the selling part is exchange. He sells it to the people who want it. So exchanging that in return for the money. So he needs people to send the goods across to the seller. So that is distribution. And he is exchanging the goods for the money for the ultimate consumption by the people, that is the people who are demanding the goods which are being produced by him. So this goes into a cycle. We have production, we have distribution, we have exchange, and then we have consumption. And whatever people are consuming, they are making the payment to the producer, and with that money the producer again produces more and then distributes, then exchanges, and then there is more consumption, and this cycle keeps on continuing. I hope you like our session on this basic concepts in microeconomics. Do give us your suggestions and feedback, and also let us know what else you would want to learn from us. Let us now move on to the macroeconomic concepts. Earlier we did micro, now we are doing macroeconomic concepts. The first concept under this is the concept of national income. This you must have heard many times, maybe read in the newspapers, that national income of our country is at certain level. So now what is this national income? Now national income means if we add up the total goods and services which are produced within the country in 1 year period, if we add them up, that gives us the national income. I'll repeat again. All the goods and services which are produced in a country in 1 year period, if we add them up, that gives us the national income. So which goods and services? Those goods and services which are produced within the domestic territory of the country. So anything which is within the domestic territory of the country will be considered for national income. Now domestic territory also includes all the consulates, embassies of our country in other countries. They are considered a part of our country. It also includes all the territorial waters, all the within those boundaries. So that whatever is produced within that region is a part of our national income. Our second concept is the concept of savings. Now every person who's earning money, he saves, because all the time he won't be working. He needs some savings to take care of him during this old age. So those savings are his portion of income, which is income minus the consumption. The income which he is getting and the amount which is he's been using. So the difference between income and consumption is known as savings. जो भी हमारी इनकम होती है हम पूरी की पूरी इनकम को स्पेंड नहीं करते, हम कुछ पोर्शन रख लेते हैं फ्यूचर के लिए, वो हमारी सेविंग्स होती है। नेक्स्ट कॉन्सेप्ट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट। नाउ दिस सेविंग इज व्हाट वी आर सेविंग। हम where are we saving? We save money in banks, in government, with government. So all that money which is collected by the bank from individual savings, the bank or other agencies may use that for productive activity and give a return. So that means it is an investment. Suppose bank will not keep the money with itself, it lends it to the people who are doing manufacturing activities. So all that manufacturing activity which takes place, it generates income, it generates employment, it generates output in the country. So that becomes an investment. Whatever savings are there in the country, generally the savings will be equal to the investment in the country. If this is not equal, that means the economy is not in balance. We'll do that later on. So investment is something, whatever is the saving, that comes into the market as investment. Then our next concept is trade cycles. There are certain business cycles which repeat at a regular interval or at some different intervals. So trade cycles, like there is inflation which is going up, or there is a trade cycle where the things have suddenly started, the prices of certain things starts rising, and then they come down automatically, and then they go up and then come down. So these are all trade cycles. So trade cycles can be defined in any time period where the behavior of the prices of certain goods is at a certain regular intervals. So we can kind of predict those cycles, and we can say, okay, this generally happens during seasons. When the harvesting season comes, or when the sowing season comes, there are certain cycles in the prices of the commodities. So that becomes kind of trade cycles. Trade cycles generally are of a long-term duration, which is over a period of 5-7 years. So that is a trade cycle. Then there is a concept of economic growth. Suppose in our country at one particular point of time 1 lakh tons of wheat is produced at one point of time, suppose in January. And say in March, from 1 lakh, the quantity of wheat has increased to 1,20,000 tons of wheat produced in March. So we compare this. 1 lakh was produced in January, 1.2 lakh is produced in March. So the difference is what? 20,000 lakh tons, 20,000 tons of wheat is produced more. So it means there is an economic growth which has taken place in the economy. That means the output, the quantity has increased over a period of time. So that means it is an economic growth. So economic growth will also bring an increase in the income levels and increase in the employment levels. And then there is economic development. Now what is the difference between economic growth and development? Growth we measure at a point of time. From January to March, the output has increased of wheat. But economic development is a continuous process, and we measure it over a period. And economic development not just checks the quantitative aspect of growth, it also checks the qualitative aspect. Whether the standard of living of the people has also increased with the increase in growth, have the social infrastructure increased, have the medical facilities increased. So all that is the process of economic development, and it is measured over a period of time. From January to March there has been a growth, but is there a development also? Maybe from January with 1 lakh tons of wheat, the price has risen in March. So there is no real development taking place in that sense, because the price have risen. When the prices have risen, people are able to buy less. So their welfare has come down. So actually there may not be any development. So development includes the concept of growth. Under growth we take only the quantitative measure. Under development we take both the quantitative and the qualitative measure. I hope you are able to understand these macroeconomic concepts. Do give us your feedback and suggestions and let us know what else you would like to understand. Or if any of these topics you would want us to discuss in detail, do let us know.